China's ports are facing a crisis, and it's getting worse by the day. An overwhelming number of empty containers are stacking up, sometimes reaching 7 layers high, creating a growing problem that is sending shockwaves throughout global supply chains. This issue is not just a minor inconvenience, it's a serious concern, with ripple effects that are felt as far away as the United States. What's happening is something no one expected. With the pandemic slowing down, businesses expected a return to normal trade flows. But what we're seeing now is far from normal. Port congestion is becoming an unprecedented issue, with large amounts of empty shipping containers just sitting around, unable to be returned and used for new shipments. The problem is compounded by decreased demand for goods in China, one of the world's largest manufacturing hubs. As Chinese manufacturers reduce output, the demand for exports has significantly dropped, leaving these containers stranded at the ports. This has a snowball effect, especially for countries like the United States, which depend heavily on imports from China. With containers not being picked up and shipped back, there's a backlog at the ports, further exacerbating the already stressed supply chain system. To make matters worse, it's now reported that 30% of US goods have been cancelled. That's a massive percentage when you think about the volume of goods that typically flow into the country from China. Items that would have made their way to US stores, factories, and warehouses are now stuck, lost in a backlog that seems to have no immediate solution. The problem at the ports isn't just about empty containers. The situation is growing worse because the handling capacity is being stretched beyond its limits. Instead of containers being sent back to China or being used for new shipments, they're building up, taking up valuable space at already overburdened docks. These ports, which were once bustling hubs of international trade, are becoming increasingly inefficient. And with each layer of containers piling up, the bottleneck gets worse. On top of this, the number of shipments coming into the ports has slowed significantly. When COVID hit, there was a massive increase in demand for goods as people stayed home and shifted to online shopping. Now, after the initial surge, consumer demand has slowed, and businesses are cancelling orders they don't need or can't afford due to high costs and reduced spending. The result? Cargo ships are being forced to return without delivering their goods, and entire shipping schedules are disrupted. This isn't just a problem for major shipping companies or port authorities, it's something that affects everyone. From manufacturers who rely on raw materials being shipped in, to small businesses who count on getting products on time for their customers, the impact is widespread. Goods are sitting idle in ships and containers, not reaching their destinations. Worse still, ports are already struggling to maintain the manpower needed to move these goods, with workers being overworked and under pressure to process containers that are piling up faster than they can be dealt with. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the US is feeling the effects in more ways than one. The cancellations of goods aren't just a matter of inconvenience, they reflect a deeper issue within the global supply chain. What once felt like a temporary issue has now evolved into a more long-term problem. As the Chinese economy falters, and shipping companies look for ways to stay afloat amid fluctuating demand, it's becoming increasingly clear that the aftermath of these issues will last well beyond the immediate term. But the situation at China's ports is part of a larger pattern we're seeing worldwide. The disruption of supply chains, which has affected nearly every country on the globe, is causing manufacturers and retailers to rethink how they operate. Companies that once relied on streamlined, just-in-time systems for inventory are now being forced to change their strategies. The old ways of operating in a smooth, predictable global economy are no longer enough. The rules are changing, and the consequences are spreading beyond China's shores. There's no clear answer as to when this crisis will end. Some experts suggest that it could take months, or even years, to fully return to normal, given the scale of the disruption. The cost to businesses is already significant, and the longer it drags on, the more it could affect consumers, too. Expect to see shortages, delays, and rising prices as businesses struggle to maintain their stock and keep products flowing into stores. The empty containers piling up in China's ports serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of global trade. It's a crisis that shows just how interconnected our economies are, and how quickly things can spiral out of control when one piece of the puzzle breaks down. What happens in China doesn't stay in China. It affects everyone. The road to recovery might be long and challenging, But for now, all we can do is watch as the problem worsens and hope for a solution that will clear the backlog and bring some sense of normalcy back to the global supply chain.